What's going on, guys? Hope everybody is doing well. Again, we want to go off the last video that we did. This is the summertime. This is the time when serious athletes really hone on their technical and tactical skills, but at the same time, don't forget about the physical component, which is so important to any sport out there. So we're gonna get into it. The reason I did this video today is because a lot of people have been looking at the skill work component video that we did before, and it's like, Coach Will, I want to know how I can take the drills that I do on my own or with a friend and a partner and make it more game-like so that it transfers into a game. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We don't want to be wasting our time out there and doing 3 hours of skill work when one would be perfectly enough. But the main thing is that you know what you're doing, and those things, the time that you're investing into building your game is actually transferring over to when it matters most, which is game time. So this doesn't only apply to basketball, guys. This can apply to soccer. This can even apply to movement skills. So when I teach, say for example, a lateral run or a lateral shuffle, these things all apply. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is, how do we make this drill more game-like? Well, it really depends on what stage of learning you're currently in. If you're at initial learning, then you need a lot of isolated skills, and I'll explain what that means in a bit, and a lot of block practice and a lot of repetition in order for that skill to really become ingrained before adding too many other variables in there. So what I mean by that is that, say for example, we're taking a skill like dribbling or shooting, one or the other. In basketball, these drills are integrated, right? These drills are integrated in the game. At any point you may need to dribble, at any point you may need to pass, at any point you may need to shoot, right? That's the way that the game works. But when initial learning of a skill, we want to separate those different skill sets so that we really get a better grasp and a better feel for what we're doing, okay? So that's the first thing that we want to think about, is how can we make it a little bit more game-like? And so when we look at the isolated skills, once we get a good hold of it, how do we make it so that it's not as repetitive? How do I make it so that I'm not on autopilot? Because remember, in the game, you're never on autopilot. The game is very chaotic, and so therefore we want to make the practice as game-like as possible, as similar to the game as we can. So then the next thing that we do is we add a reactionary component to it, because all the sports that we do, there's definitely a reactionary component to it. So we can use numbers, okay? Again, I'm not sure if you guys looked at our last video, but I can give you a series of numbers, and those series of numbers symbolize different moves or different reactions, and you need to follow those, or maybe even combine those numbers into a certain movement pattern. Then the second thing, this is quite unique and quite cool, is math problems. So if I'm doing a certain move and the player maybe not really struggling with it, but it's a new skill to him, I may ask him an additional problem, an add and subtract or multiplication problems, to see if he can think about different things while he's learning that skill. That is an awesome tool, an awesome trick that I've learned over the years. Guided defense. So guided defense is basically, scripted defense is another name for that, is that the defense is not really playing live, but they're guiding you in order to try and get you to do the right thing. So there's a lot of spatial awareness component into it so that it can be more applicable into a game. So the second last part of this is an offensive advantage. So basically, for an example, is I don't want to just be doing layups by myself. There's no spatial awareness there, there's no reactionary component, there's definitely no pressure there. So I want to be able to play against an actual dynamic defender, but at the same time, I have an offensive advantage. So for instance, I have the ball at a defender's hip. Okay, the minute that I rip the ball off the defender's hip and go to the basket, it's live. See, the defender doesn't know when I'm gonna go. He knows I'm going to go, but he doesn't know when. Okay, he knows where I'm attacking, but again, that when component will give me a slight advantage over my competition. But at the same time, I'm able to execute the skill with maybe 50 or 60% pressure that there would be in an actual game. Then everybody can see this coming. The last part of this is a live situation where it's neutral. There's no advantage here. I've actually got to execute my skills against a live defender, okay? And that can go 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, all the way up to 5-on-5, which is ideally what we want in basketball. Or in soccer, you can go 5-on-5, 7-on-7, all the way up to 11-on-11. So hopefully this gives you a good idea. But guys, the main thing again during these summer months is that we're being smart about the time that we spend on the field, on the court, in the weight room, and movement skills, because all that time that we're spending doing, trying to perfect what we're doing is a complete waste if we're not able to use it on the field. I'd really like to hear any kind of comments that you guys have in terms of what you do in terms of skill work and how to make it more game-like. Leave a comment on the bottom and I'll make sure to get back to you. Guys, see you next time.